watch it back after.
Okay, cool.
I know some people like to do that, especially I guess if you don't write notes down or something, you can watch it back, stuff like that. So sorry, what region are you as well?
NA East.
Okay. And how much ping do you get?
Uh, I'm I vary between 4 and 5 to like usually 20, 30.
Oh, interesting.
I'm normally
Why?
pretty low. I'm normally under 10.
Okay. What happens when it goes up? Like in terms of 30, is that just a bad server for you?
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, like right now, it says I'm running 27,
Mhm.
26, somewhere around there. But
Okay.
uh, yeah, now it's dropped down to 5. So
Okay, yeah, no, for sure. I'm just wondering, it's to a point, play or sorry, ping kind of affects your play style and even in terms of your box fighting. You know what I mean? That's why I'm curious. So yeah, we can just go into a box fight 1v1. I just want to do a couple 1v1s, just to kind of see, I guess, how you are, some of your habits, stuff like that, and then we can go from there. Okay?
okay,
We can go over build fighting as well after this. It's just generally speaking, build fighting has became, and maybe you've even noticed this in game, it's kind of fallen out of meta. Especially in a fight, you can kind of force people to box fight just by boxing up. Do you know what I mean? And expanding out your own builds, right? It becomes very hard for someone who is used to PG to, or sorry, to build fighting someone if they are build fighting them in general, or sorry, if they aren't build fighting. My bad, I said that really wrong. Like, do you know what I mean? If somebody isn't willing to build fight you back, it becomes very hard to have a build fight. So I gotta end the game. I forgot to switch teams. Okay, team select. Okay, there we go. Wait, what happened?
I don't know.
Okay, maybe go back to hub then.
Okay, I tried to build right away and it wouldn't let me do anything.
Yeah, no, it just respawned me and then it ended.
Trying to get back. There we go.
Okay. So, okay, so sorry, let me ask more questions. And so, okay, obviously you got coaching, so you're interested in improving, right?
Yes.
What is your kind of goals with that? In the sense of like, what are you looking to do? Maybe play the online tournaments, play
Yep.
scrims, stuff like that.
More just I'd like to do the competitive online tournaments,
Mm-hmm.
World Cup qualifiers, stuff like that.
Okay. And how often do you scrim, or have you kind of delved into scrimming at all?
I've not even got into scrimming at all.
Okay.
I get on. I'm on every night for I don't know about 4 or 5 hours a night
Mm-hmm.
every night, and I do creative a lot. And then I just got into streaming not too long ago, so I do
Okay.
some streaming and do matches. But
Yeah. And then what do you generally play, like arena or pubs or stuff like that?
play arena or like lately I've been doing
Oh,
lately I've been doing a lot of solo squads, just trying to hot drop and get into the fast close-up battles
okay.
so I can improve.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, for sure. All right, sorry. I know I was talking and you were explaining, so you're kind of distracted there. So yeah, we can just play a couple, maybe like 5 out, something like that.
Oh man, that
Oh, GG.
I just messed myself up there. I forgot this. I didn't even look at my loadout. I forgot my
Oh, to move your things around?
some of these patches. Shotgun and AR are switched around for me.
Hmm.
Huh.
Right, GG.
I said. Good shot. Now I'm gonna whoop you.
No, that's a good mentality to have. Keep it up. There's some people I box fight and they kind of get discouraged, I guess, in a bit. And I mean, that's how I was starting at the beginning. That's why I began box fighting so much, right? It's because I felt like my fighting was, I wasn't comfortable. Do you know what I mean? And when you're trying to play a tournament and you're not necessarily comfortable playing it, well, right, that becomes can become very hard, right? GG.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can do like, let's do one more, and then I want to kind of talk about some of the things that I see, and then I want to ask you some questions too, just to kind of gain some of your insight on it as well, right? Oh no, I'm stuck in the. Okay, GG. Okay, yeah. So, there's definitely some things I'm noticing. I mean, obviously, I know box fights aren't um to a point realistic, right? You're kind of forced to do a lot of things you can't maybe. I mean, especially if you're on the ground and above you, right? You can't necessarily edit out and stuff like that. So I definitely understand the idea that it's not realistic, right? I just do it so that I can see, I guess, the extremes. Do you know what I mean? In the sense of like, in a box fight map like this, you're forced to box fight. Do you know what I mean? It shows really how comfortable you are being in a box. You know what I mean? It's in terms of editing that you're taking and stuff like that, right? So okay, I want to talk about now, and maybe a lot of things that you even saw me doing, or actually before that, what do you feel like you struggle with the most with box fighting?
Probably like right there when we were going, like just especially in that last one, I really
Mm-hmm.
noticed it. I mean, you knocked my wall and even threw your own wall up in its place from a distance, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even catch it.
Yeah.
You stole the wall. So
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then okay. No, no, that makes sense for sure. Okay, so then I would say that that's, and you can disagree with me if you'd like, in terms of like how comfortable you are within a box, maybe, or even your natural reactions to things, right? Especially the wall being taken. I've obviously have a lot more experience with that, and so my reactions are a lot quicker. You know what I mean? In terms of I identify that the wall isn't there, maybe I identify that something isn't in your box, stuff like that, right? So I want to go over a lot of things where you can just so the thing with box fighting, and I just want to talk about this quickly. The thing with box fighting is it's very punishing. Do you know what I mean? Like if you mess something up, it's not like build fighting where, I mean, to a point, build fighting is definitely punishing, but you know what I mean? You have a lot more flexibility, right? Even if this isn't a real game and we're box fighting, there's a lot less things in between us. You know what I mean? There's a, like whether it's one wall, right? Whether you're not putting something in your box, that stuff is very, very quickly punished as well, especially for someone like me who's very comfortable box fighting. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
but there's the funny thing is there's a lot that you can do to just straight up nullify that. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, to a point, box fighting will always be trading walls back and forth. You know what I mean? In the sense of like I'm pressuring your wall, I'm trying to get it. Maybe you're peeking on me or editing on me, stuff like that. You know what I mean? But
sure.
especially in terms of things within your box or even how you're peeking, you can do things a lot safer than you currently are. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah,
I definitely want to work on sorry, I want you to work on developing these ideas, and I'll kind of go over them. I'm also recording as well. I don't know if I told you that before, so you can look back on it and watch it.
yeah,
I'm gonna try to cover a lot of the basics. You know what I mean? And don't work on like implementing every single thing at a time. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to go into your games and be like, all right, I've got to work on this. Like, do you know what I mean? Work on one thing at a time, right? Because it's a lot easier when you work on one thing at a time, build it into your current gameplay, and then go to the next. You know what I mean?
yep,
So okay, one of the things, the easiest thing that you can control instantly, right? And like I said, that just nullifies. You could even, I don't know, I don't have a percentage for it, but a lot of plays is just putting a cone in your box. You know what I mean? putting something in your box so that you're at least controlling that, right? Obviously the cone is the best, especially for peeking, right? You aren't. It's not like with a ramp where you can't peek the walls, right? Or even the angles. Like the problem with ramps is they're especially awkward because you want to look for right angles, right? But if I do a right angle, all of a sudden I can't close this wall comfortably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't even
That,
peek the other wall. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's hard to close those walls once you open them like that.
Yeah, no, it's very awkward, right? And so you can obviously see that if you put a cone in your box instead of a ramp, you have a lot more flexibility, right?
Yep.
Now then, obviously, so again, the one of the things, putting something in your box, you know what I mean? Putting specifically a cone in your box is the most versatile. You can peek while you have it in your box, and you can turn it into a ramp, stuff like that, right? Then you want to work on choosing more right angles, or interesting. I mean, definitely like looking for more right angles, but maybe you need to think a bit more about your positioning compared to the person that you're fighting. Um, in the sense of, okay, let's say even how you were trading, like let's say how you were pressuring me that one time, right? You had you didn't have anything in your box. You edited a window, and you were looking to kind of spray back and pressure me off from pressuring your wall, right? Which again, pressure for pressure, that's really good, right? That's something very basic, but that is one of the fundamentals of the game. You know what I mean? So it's good that you identify that. The problem is that you're not necessarily thinking how much I can see you versus you can see me, right? So maybe if you want to stand here from my perspective a bit more, right? So I was doing this, right? And I was, again, like this is a right edit, something that's very important in this game. You know what I mean? Do you see how if you were put yourself in this situation, how exposed you really are, right?
Yeah.
So like let's say if I'm doing this and I'm just gonna shoot a couple times just to show you how that I'm like pressuring the ramp, right? Like let's say if I knew you were standing behind it and you were pressuring, if I just did this, it would be like the same thing. Do you know what I mean? But do you see how I'm hidden now from you, right?
Yeah.
In the sense of I'm hiding, I'm quote unquote hiding behind my builds. You know what I mean? I'm using them as cover a lot more, right? Obviously, I have to be very quickly in terms of identifying like, hey, if you start pressuring my wall, now I need to, you know what I mean? I need to stop looking for the pressure unless I know that I can get it in time, right? Or I need to just look to hold the wall, right? There's something, but that's the third thing that I'll kind of talk about, and I call it like purpose or intent, and maybe you already know what I'm kind of talking about in the sense of like, if I'm doing something in the game, it's like for a purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm editing a right angle, right? Like if I'm doing this, it's probably to shoot. Do you know what I mean? If I'm doing something like this, it's probably to pressure and get the wall, right? I already know I'm doing that before I'm. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm making the conscious decision. Like this isn't the best spot to peek from, right? However, you notice me peeking from it when I got the wall because now I'm right angle. Do you know what I mean? Now I want to peek, right? But if I'm like this, I mean, this is obviously. Sorry, I just burped. This is obviously a position where you are looking to replace the wall. You know what I mean? You're looking to pressure while being safe. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's kind of the intent and focus that I'm talking about, right? You have to be able to identify kind of like, hey, can I get this wall in time? Do you know what I mean? Especially when fights get more, or sorry, you begin to fight better players who are pressuring back and forth a lot. You know what I mean? You're trading a lot of walls. You're trading a lot of even what's in your box, stuff like that, right? There's a lot of different things. So that's what I mean in the sense of like your purpose and intent. But you also need to think of where you can see the other person from and where they can see you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Try and figure out the angles.
Yeah, and again, like I said, like there's a lot of ways to bypass that, and straight up like doing this. Do you know what I mean? Like a top right triangle edit, you can see how I can hide behind it, right? I have a lot of flexibility, right? If I'm getting sprayed, I can scroll wheel reset, and once I become more comfortable, looking directly at the ground places this wall in front of me, right? Um, Actually, maybe that's one thing. Sorry, do you know what I mean by in the sense of when I look down and like even spinning around, it'll place the thing in front of me even if I'm looking directly at the ground?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure because some people actually don't know that, and that's like a huge part. You know what I mean? Especially in terms of box fighting, that's very important to be comfortable with, right? That idea. But yeah,
That's
so you can
something
see.
just not too long ago I started working on because I always used to have trouble if I was really close to the wall I
Uh huh.
couldn't place it.
Yeah.
So I started figuring out if I just look straight down into it I could get it to go.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even looking straight up as well does the same thing. I mean, obviously, if there's no walls above, it'll place the walls. You know what I mean? Like it'll place two high walls or whatever. But that same idea, right? And that's definitely important as well for box fighting. So that's good that you've like identified that as well. But in terms of when I say like nullifying a lot of the things, Do you know what I mean? Like putting a cone in my box almost like halves what you can do in a box fight. Do you know what I mean? Like there's I can't stare you. I can't put a cone in your box. You know what I mean? I can't even I mean I've been doing this to people all the time, right? When they do this and they sit behind it, I'll instantly punish that with a rotated stare. You know what I mean? It takes me no time at all. I pull my stare out, press rotate once, which is R for me, and I'm instantly, you know what I mean, punishing him for that, right? And there's a lot of angles that I can go from here, right? Even though it's a disadvantage angle in terms of it's a left peek, because of the fact that I have the build and the surprise as well as good, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, you can see how all of those abilities and even the ability of like when I'm trading back and forth spraying, right? It's just gone if you put something in your box. You know what I mean? Same with the right angle, right? If you're doing this, there's all of a sudden a lot of things that I can't do. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're peeking through a window, you can kind of play around that. Even I can play around that when I'm pressuring someone, right? You can obviously see exactly where they are. There's stuff that's really obvious. You know what I mean? You can't hide behind a window unless you're hiding like right here, right? Which, okay, I guess that's not bad. In certain circumstances, that could be useful, right? Let's say if you ramped somebody and you edit the wall and you hide behind it and then peek them like they're stuck in your box. Just to give you an example, that's obviously super specific, but you know what I mean, right? Compared to this, which is the top right end of triangle, and you can see, okay, if I get sprayed, I can build, right? It's I'm literally looking straight ahead, even looking up a bit, and I can scroll wheel reset it to close it quickly, right? That helps you with your reaction. Again, you're also hiding behind it, which is really important, right? Maybe it's not as much now, and I don't necessarily know who you box fight or practice against, but it's gotten to the point where like if you mess up an edit, even in terms of like even editing here, right? Editing this is the same thing as editing this. Do you know what I mean? It really is. Yeah, exactly. It's 50-50, right? To a point like, okay, sure, like even if I'm doing this, you can say it's a right angle, and I guess you know what I mean, you would be technically right. It's just there's a lot better ways to peak, especially when you're very obviously 50-50 in the shot. You know what I mean? It's like who just hits the better shot at this point, right? Whereas if I do this, I mean, do you know what I mean? I'm in such an advantage if somebody's on this side of my box, right? Like somewhere within this box. I mean, even over here, right? Like if they're back here AR spraying or something, right? And then I edit it open, they miss their AR shot, and then I jump peek. You even have another advantage because of the fact that you're looking to control builds in your box. Do you notice how my head hits the roof, right? Seems like a really small thing, but that just bounces me down even faster. Do you know what I mean? And especially, and even, I mean, again, like this is like very, I guess, like refined gameplay, right? But I'm doing this, right? So again, a right peek, good. Hiding behind it, even better. Strafing left so that your roof hits the head and you gain the smallest little crack that you can shoot from. Very min-max, you know what I mean? But like, these are the things that you want to look for in box fights because you can do this edit 9 out of 10 times. Do you know what I mean? There's not, like, even if somebody's here, right? Like, even if, which happens a lot in box fights especially, right? Trading back and forth. Maybe less in game because you have more flexibility, obviously, right? But you can see how if I'm sitting here, I can still pressure the wall from a safe angle. You know what I mean? I'm still hiding behind my wall. I'm not exposing myself. Even the cone, right? If I'm ahead of in health and they're 50-15, if I'm standing behind the cone like this, right? You can see how much I get covered, right? It's not like I'm standing here blatantly showing everything. You know what I mean? I'm hiding behind the cone using it as cover, right? This idea, and this was kind of the fourth thing I wanted to talk about, the idea that you can be aggressive and pressure somebody while playing defensively. And Fortnite is very unique in that aspect. Do you know what I mean? And those things, I mean, even things that I was doing to you, right? And so I'm going to show you some examples right here. Doing things like this. Do you know what I mean? So like obviously hiding behind the ramp, right? Like I was doing before is very good because again, you're fully hidden, right? The only angle that this person can take on you is literally doing this. Like running out and doing, and like this is not a good angle for you. You know what I mean? Like it's a left peek. The person can see you coming, right? If you're spraying this wall, like especially if you spray the corner, this is like really small min-max things, but it's important for you to know if you spray this corner specifically, you can see more than if you go like here or something. Do you know what I mean? Like you can see or like more into the box, and that it's not by much, but it's enough to give you more time to react if somebody's psychoing you. You know what I mean? But again, like you're really safe in this position, right? Ideally, this would be your whole box, right? You can edit the stair close. You can go out the side if he starts pressuring. You can go out the back, obviously, as well. You might want to own the back wall. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, right? You have a lot of flexibility doing this. And again, you're playing quote-unquote aggressive, or you're pressuring somebody, right? But you're also making sure, like, hey, I'm not in a bad spot. You know what I mean? Can I get box, like, and again, like, this is, like, obviously this is to a point thinking about, like, very refined gameplay, right? Like, even boxing people up, you know what I mean? And the piece management, sorry, the piece control, right? Like, how everything is important. I can't get trapped like this. Do you know what I mean? I can't get boxed up. I can't get, there's nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is one of the safest ways to pressure in the game, right? And that's why everybody does it. Like, even if you've maybe been box fighting people, you see people do this all the time, right? I was doing it, like, literally just spamming it. I was literally doing the same thing over and over because, do you know what I mean? Like, there's not much that's better than that, right? Even using the cone. I mean, I prefer, not necessarily prefer the cone, but in certain circumstances, the cone is good as well. Because again, so right, this is a right peek for you, which is really good. It's also on a cone. So if you get the wall, you can naturally right peek and then use the cone to your advantage. Do you know what I mean? You can uncrouch, you can crouch up, place something in the box from here, right? You can be all the way back here. Even the cone is actually to a point a bit buggy, especially wood for some reason. Like, do you notice how I can shoot? Like, do you notice how it looks like I'm pretty much shooting through that, right?
Yeah.
Like, my bullets are fully going. It's just something about cones. Like, that's legitimately it. Like, brick and metal do the same thing. Obviously, that's, like, really, really small. But it's still, like, when you get comfortable, I guess as comfortable as I am, right? I'm looking to abuse that fact. You know what I mean? I'm looking to crouch and uncrouch. And you can see how it would be so hard to trade back. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Again, like, even in this situation.
Timing.
Well, if for sure, and you have to at least have some prior knowledge of what the person is doing, right, in terms of pressuring you. Same with the stair, because again, the only way, okay, maybe the person edits this wall because they know what I'm doing, and they peek me like this. I mean, if they're editing this wall, I'm pulling out my shotgun immediately, just as a natural response, because I know, like, people tend to peek in that moment, right? Yeah, like, if I'm ARing, right, and then they shoot it and then they edit it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull my pump out, and then I'm looking for the shot. And this person, you're in such a bad spot if you're trying to do this. You know what I mean? If you're trying to even jump and, like, look, you're just in a really bad spot. Whereas I have a right angle, I shoot you maybe before you even realize it, and then I'm closing off the angle completely. You know what I mean? Never put myself in danger once. The entire box was mine. I can't get trapped. You know what I mean? The walls are mine. If he starts spraying, I can just edit out. You know what I mean? You have a lot of flexibility, right? And even if you want to go a step further, because how much ping? Sorry, you said you get like 5 to 30?
Yeah, I'm on 2 right now.
Okay. So you have the ability to take walls, right? Even first try to a point. I play on 60 to 40, right? I've had my wall held 15 times. and it's like they were emoting in between it, you know what I mean? Like I would pickaxe it, like, because you can like generally pickaxe a wall twice, right? They would replace it and then they would emote and they were standing there. Like if I got it, it would be an instant 200, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Super frustrating, but I've worked to play around that, you know what I mean? Especially using things like this, because again, I can make a play depending on, and to a point, you shouldn't make a play depending on getting the wall first try. You know what I mean? Like, unless he's white health, like if you hit him, hey, if you hit him 30 white, if you hit him 10 white even, you at least know his health. You know what I mean? You have that information. Hey, go up in 50-50 the wall first try, right? If you get it, the fight's over. You know what I mean? But for me, I probably won't get the wall, so I have to change how I play. And even using the cone, in terms of quote-unquote like misdirection, right? You could see how if I was doing this and maybe spraying your wall, some people would catch on and they edited like that. That's fine for me. You know what I mean? That's almost what I prefer, because especially when somebody does that edit, it shows their intent of wanting to shoot. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe they start running up like this. I'm not even gonna be there. I'm gonna be hidden behind my ramp and then taking their wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you can see how strong these methods are. You know what I mean? And these are pretty much like, do you know what I mean? Like there's nothing ever going to be better than this in terms of like pressuring a wall safely. You know what I mean? Like the stair like this is like, from box to box, pressuring a wall is the safest way that you can possibly do it. And there's never going to be a safer way because you control all the pieces around you, right? Obviously, you'd have all these walls and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And you also control the floor and above and below you, right? The only thing that you don't control is the wall right ahead of you, right?
Yep.
But okay, so now we talked a little about those four things, right? I'm just gonna recap. So in terms of obviously the first thing is putting something in your box, right? A cone is very important. Even if you want to put a stair, like let's say, here, do you want to pump me? Like maybe just pump me for 100 or something. Yeah, yeah. So let's say I'm healing, right? And I box up, right? I'm boxed up. If I don't put something in my box, it's probably to intentionally do it because let's say, okay, let's say you start pickaxing twice. Okay, that wasn't very good timing. But sorry, what I'm trying to explain is like, you know what I mean? Like, let's say if I popped a mini and then you pickaxe it, right? And then I intentionally go out the back using a stair. You know what I mean? Like that's like one of the only times I'm not going to put something in my box is because I know that I'm already like what I'm already planning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's okay. Sorry. So then the second thing that we talked about was obviously the like right peaks, right angles, stuff like that, right? Hiding behind that is very important as well. I just showed you one example, but it's because I just want to talk about the principle of it. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I could go over so much quote unquote examples. Do you know what I mean? Like okay, let's say somebody's in this box, right? And I'm pressuring it or whatever. Like I got these walls, and I'm pressuring it. Do you see how this as well? Sorry, do you want to come to this side? Do you see how this as well is like a right peak? Do you know what I mean? Like because of the fact that they're in the box and I'm using the wall to my left as cover, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely not as strong as this, but it's still very good. You know what I mean? Because again, I'm choosing the angle that I can peek, right? I'm playing defensive. Hey, if I don't have a wall here, or maybe if I even have a wall like this, if they edit out on me, I'm closing the edit. You know what I mean? If I don't have one place and I'm doing it, hey, that's fine. I can place the wall myself. You know what I mean? You have a lot of freedom, and this is just again another right angle, right? Let's say if I get this box and I put a stair in his box, or sorry, let's say if I get the wall and I put a stair in his box or something, because I don't have any more mats to place a wall. I can. Do you see how I can like peek this and choose how I peek and how I play accordingly? You know what I mean? And this is so much more advantageous to you than just, hey, I just got the wall. Woo-wee, I'm 50-50 now. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you lose your advantage of having the wall, right? You want to keep your advantage. Fortnite is, BR in general, Battle Royales, is very advantage and disadvantage oriented. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the third thing that we talked about was the intent and purpose, right? In the sense of, before I do something, before I do something, I know what I'm gonna do. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Like you have a reason for what you're gonna do.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not. But it's also important though to, because especially in Fortnite, right? Sorry, do you mind splitting your mats or something?
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Right? Even in this situation as well, if you, so like let's say something happens, because again, like this isn't a perfect world. Somebody ends up running at you or something, or somebody ends up spraying your thing back, right? What I mean by, in the sense of you don't necessarily want to change your objective, right? Your objective was to replace the wall. Hey, if you just want to get out of there because you're getting pressured back, do you know what I mean? That's like a much safer play than looking to, because at that point, if something is not necessarily going your way or you're getting pressured back as well, and you aren't to a point prepared or positioned around that, do you know what I mean? It's a lot safer to just leave that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I mean by, unless he's white HP, right? Then my intent is, hey, I'm trying to get damage off. You know what I mean? I know that I have health advantage. I know that I can win this fight. If he starts pressuring me, that's fine. I want to a point 50-50 while also still trying to be as safe as possible, right? But if somebody's doing this to me or whatever, right? Then I'm probably gonna keep 50-50 the the wall replaced. You know what I mean? Like let's say if they're spraying my wall, or sorry, they're spraying my stair while I'm spraying their wall at the same time. You know what I mean? I'm sure that you could see how it would come down to like a replace kind of thing. You know what I mean? And how they play from that, right? But I'm only making that play if I know like, hey, I want to go for damage. You know what I mean? Like I have the advantage. I want to go for damage. If I haven't hit someone or I know somebody is healed, I'm not gonna do that play. You know what I mean? Because that's a lot riskier. I don't know if they're 200, right? Even if I'm 200, if they're 150, they're not that far behind me. You know what I mean? Especially if I put myself in a really bad situation in the sense of like, I get a ramp taken here, and then, okay, let's say somebody edits the ramp. well, all of a sudden I'm in a really bad spot. I'm in a left peak, and this person can quite easily abuse me and take right peaks. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then you, even though you're maybe 50 health on him, that becomes nullified very quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the fourth thing. So I gotta take a drink.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then the fourth thing was the idea that you can play defensive while playing aggressive and pressuring. Sorry, or sorry, defensive while pressuring even. You know what I mean? And I showed you some methods to do that. These are again the two, like using the stair and the ramp. There's like nothing better than that. Do you know what I mean? Like especially the ramp. That's like the highest peak of like pressuring safely while being right beside a box. I mean, obviously, if you're ARing somebody from 50 meters away or 100 meters away, you're not gonna, you know what I mean? Like you're not gonna set your box up and be like, oh hey, yep, I'm gonna spray this person 100 meters away from me now. You know what I mean? Like that's obviously not the point of it, right? But if you're looking to pressure a wall right beside you that you can at least take, right? Then that's the best way to do it. There's also one other thing I want to show you. As well from pressuring above, let's say, right? Because maybe you don't want to necessarily go against the wall that, or just depending on the situation, maybe you feel more comfortable going from above as well. You can also use this, right? So let's say I'm hitting the cone. There's a fifth thing that I want to talk about a bit after that I'm going to go over in terms of like using your guns to pressure a lot more. Maybe you've even noticed this. A very easy way to lose an advantage in a fight is having your pickaxe out and getting caught with your pickaxe out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like getting caught with your pants down. You can't do anything, right? If I do this even on a wall, right, and I'm swinging and he edits on me, I'm swinging and I'm doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like I can't even. At least if I'm ARing, I at least have the chance to AR back. You know what I mean? It's just that's how you lose an advantage so quickly. And there's very few times you want to pickaxe. You notice how when I was doing this, even the stairs, I was using my gun the entire time. You know what I mean? And it makes it really hard for somebody to edit out on you. Even if you're using a pump, I mean that seems kind of, I don't know, necessarily not like supernatural, right? You'd be like, well, why don't you just pickaxe that? It's because, especially shotguns, like tack. What do you prefer, attack or pump?
Usually attack, but I've been trying as I've been box fighting more and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I've been trying a lot of the box fight maps I play on. I'll have pumps, and I've been getting a little bit better with the pump.
Yeah, for sure, that's good. But I would say that keep playing with attack as well. It gives you a lot more flexibility. I mean, I can't show you right now, but imagine somebody tacking the wall because it does 50 damage, and a purple and gold tack does 75, which is literally a pickaxe. Do you know what I mean? You could use these things. Like how I tell people to think about it is use their guns as like a long range pickaxe. Like don't get me wrong, it's still a gun. It's still for damage, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. But it's like if you can pressure with your gun as well, isn't that even safer? You know what I mean? Especially SMG.
So fast.
Yeah, for sure. And the tack, like I said, like it does 75 if it's gold or purple. It does 50, and assume pump does 50. So you can kind of play around that because obviously you can see the health of the wall and stuff like that, right? But you can see how if I was shooting this over and over again, especially if it was attack, it would be very hard to like edit on me. You know what I mean? And that's why you hide behind things, right? Because
Yep.
if somebody's doing this and I'm just shooting to try to get the wall at this point, you know what I mean? And they edit on me and I shoot and I close off the angle instantly. I mean, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Like there's nothing you can't trade back even to a point. And like that's something that's pretty advanced. I wouldn't even necessarily think that you should focus on it right now at all, but like the idea of pre-firing. The reason that especially now hiding behind your builds is much more beneficial and much more common, especially at the higher level, is because it's to the point where you can to a point tell what people are doing. You know what I mean? Do you see how you can see my head when I edit? Right?
Yeah.
That seems like very subtle, and it is. It's ridiculously subtle. But I look at that. Do you know what I mean? And if I can see that you're gonna make an edit on me, and I'm gonna pre-fire you and then close off an angle. Do you know what I mean? Because again, I'm pressuring while playing defensive, right? There's nothing to stop me from doing something like this, right? Shooting the wall where the person currently is, and then closing off an angle. You'd be like, okay, it's not like 9 times out of 10 it works. It's like 1 out of 10 it works. But I don't lose anything nor gain anything from doing it. I just give myself the chance to hit them. You know what I mean? And that's why it's always really important to hide behind your edits now. Even more people are doing that. I mean, even that can even happen by accident. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say he tries to edit the wall. It's not like, this seems really stupid, but I swear it happens. Like, it's happened to me. I've done it to people. I think the wall, it's my edit. I'm trying to edit. Oh, he edits it open and I accidentally shoot because I think it's my edit, and then I close off the stair. You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. It happens all the time, right? But okay, that's the fifth thing I wanted to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, you can see how, and maybe even you thinking about it, whenever you lose an advantage in a fight, it's probably because you pulled your pickaxe out and you got within that range. You know what I mean? That if you're in this range and you're fighting someone with a pump, they're gonna hit you really hard if they have good aim. You know what I mean? Even if with attack, they can easily hit you 150 at this range. You know what I mean? And if they're properly doing it, in terms of like if they're hiding behind a thing, like there's no way to punish back. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard. Like, even if, especially if someone's doing this. Go to my cone display. Oh, do the thing, right? Oh, I didn't shoot there. But like, you can see how, like, if they were doing that as well as, do you see how like my head hits the roof and I'm scroll wheel resetting? Like, I'm going against so many factors. You know what I mean? But okay, and then that's the fifth thing. But again, like, I also wanted to teach you another thing in terms of if you prefer maybe going from the cone, especially because you can take cones as well, right? Doing this and hiding behind your edit, like you would take this wall, right? And then you would take this wall to kind of hide yourself, like, especially maybe better players might look to punish you by jumping out at the side and kind of looking for a shot like that, which definitely happens. That's how I developed this, in the sense of like, somebody kept jumping out on me, who I know is somebody who's very good at box fighting, and they kept punishing me for that, right? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna preemptively place these walls, and I'm gonna place these floors. The funny thing is this is the exact same amount of mats it would take to box up beside somebody. You know what I mean? So it's just more spread out, right? But if you prefer this, I mean, I would say this is even stronger than walls. Honestly, it is, because of the fact that you have the third option. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously you have the ability to replace the thing that you're hitting, right? Like, let's say if I'm hitting the cone, I can replace it, I can edit, right? Again, this is the only time I use pickaxe because of the fact that I can close an angle off so quickly. Do you know what I mean? Hey, if you use your gun like this, that's completely good as well. You know what I mean? That makes it even harder for them to punish you for that, right? As long as you get comfortable with the placement of the floor, right? In terms of, as well, like, do you see how I'm kind of like almost like loading, in the sense of like, I know when my AR is gonna break it, so I'm moving ahead to give myself, I guess, a better angle to take the wall, or sorry, to take the floor, right? You can kind of do the same thing with walls, and you'll begin to kind of, I guess, develop that through your own experiences and stuff like that, right? But okay, for me personally, because I barely ever get things, right? I can, like, somebody can hold a cone on me again, like a wall 15 times, you know what I mean? I can play around much better the idea that I can bait somebody. You know what I mean? Because again, I'm closing off the angle, I'm playing safe while pressuring, right? Most people know to do this, right? Even putting something in their box, even this, right? This is a good angle for you to peek. Like, this is, if you're looking to low ground somebody, this is not bad. You know what I mean? It's just, when I do this, it makes it even harder for that person, let alone I have the third option, like I said before. I mean, now I'm sitting, do you know what I mean? Like, I can watch, like, okay, from this, I only have one kind of, so you can look there if you want. I only have one kind of, like, when the wall is not edited, like, this is kind of a blind spot for me. You know what I mean? That's why it's good to go up directly to the wall and then peek if somebody's doing that to you, right? But as soon as I do this, I just kind of take away all that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I take away any advantage the person has, especially because if I don't get the cone, I actually prefer not to take the cone because it shows intent. It's a lot. It takes longer to edit twice. Do you know what I mean? So guess what? If I'm below here, right, and I see somebody do this, do you see how my, like, it's almost like my natural reaction would be, as soon as I see the person edit the floor, right, I would look to edit the wall. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Right, I would do this, and then as I edit the cone, oh, okay, well, all of a sudden they're walking right into my peak. You know what I mean? Even though I wasn't, like, there was no reason for them to do that. You know what I mean? They should know that they don't want to take this peak. But again, I'm just in such a good situation and position that it's just, especially if I'm jumping. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can see how insanely good that angle is, right? So there's definitely a lot that you can do, right? And this is just stuff to straight up nullify box fighting. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no play to doing sorry. I guess there's to a point a counter, right? But like, let's say if I had more mats and I put a cone in my box, right? There's like, I have so much freedom. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, even if somebody was insanely good at box fighting compared to what I'm doing, what is somebody gonna do here? You know what I mean? Like if I have a cone right here, I take away the chance that they can stare at me. Then what? Like they can't do anything. You know what I mean? Same with if I'm replacing, right? I mean, obviously it comes down to like who's pressuring the most. You know what I mean? In terms of like trading builds back and forth and stuff like that, kind of what I talked about before. But just in general, these are things that you can do that just straight up nullify what other people are going to do. You know what I mean? Even if they're better at box fighting than you, it doesn't matter. There's no counter to this. You know what I mean? If they're going to peek you.
Yeah.
Obviously, if they just held this and then never peeked you, well then, okay, I guess. But then, because you have the ability to actually take things, right, then you can actually play around that and bait that. Yeah, so, okay, how do you feel about those 5 things? Can you kind of see how if you worked on implementing them into your gameplay, they're kind of like they're not necessarily basics, but I'd call them like the pillars of box fighting. Do you know what I mean? If you go watch any pro player, you'll see him implementing all of these things, right? In various different ways, right? There's lots of different situations and experiences that you can implement these things in, but once you have that core like understanding, hey, you can go from there. You know what I mean? You can use some of the things that I showed you, or you can use other things, whatever works, as long as you kind of put yourself in that situation where you're safe. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, those angles are. I mean, just making sure that you have a good right angle like that. I mean, that helps a ton.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even like, okay, obviously the things that we're doing were kind of to a point they had a decent amount of setup, right? But even if, hey, if like I said, if you first try that wall, right, and you get it and you run up to somebody and you do an edit like this, it's like so much better than if you first tried the wall and then you did this. Do you know what I mean? Especially because if this person is good, they can shoot you and then edit the cone before you can actually shoot back, because of the fact that you have the pullout delay after an edit. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you see how my shotgun pulls out like that? That seems like it's not that long. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's like what, like 100 milliseconds less, right? Maybe 50 milliseconds, something like that.
Yeah.
You can be abused for that, and I have in the past, especially fighting better players. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But again, like, you just take away that chance at all, even if the person is good or bad, by doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and see, I guess my first instinct when I go to a wall like this and I'm about to fight somebody, where I've always failed at is I always pop a window.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Versus doing that.
Well, you can see just the window again. Like I said, the window isn't the worst thing. At least you can hide behind it partially. Do you know what I mean? But it's like this gives you an advantage, right? That's what you want. Advantages in box fights. Advantage in the game overall is obviously very good too, but specifically for box fighting, advantages where you can get them are really important. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you a big problem that I had too is like if I'm in my box here and I place a cone and then I pop a window, sometimes I'm on the cone and I'm not at the right angle.
Yeah.
To see through the window, where this gives you a lot more flexibility to get down in this corner if you've got a cone in here.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've got a lot more.
No, it even plays more comfortably too. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, like, hey, if I have a cone in my box, because keep in mind, you want to do that, right? It's like if I edit a window, I get punished for playing smart. Do you know what I mean? Which isn't very, it's not very good. You know what I mean? Like, you want to control the thing in your box. I mean, obviously you can change the way you peek, and doing this isn't the worst thing either, right? In terms of hiding behind a cone and stuff like that. But it's just, this is so much better by, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I can see how that's way better.
And again, like I said, you want to build it up one by one. Like, hey, at the beginning, if you want to focus, I mean, that's how 99% of people approach their gameplay. You know what I mean? Like, people don't pick up on, oh yeah, I see this guy doing this. Oh, I'm gonna work on all those. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not even how the natural progression of the game has progressed. It's been like one thing at a time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So hey, I want to put cones in my box. I want to, do you know what I mean? Oh, I want to work on my right peaks. I want to work on stuff like that, right? Getting more comfortable. And this even goes back to the way you practice. Like you said, or sorry, I think I asked you earlier and you said that you do some creative and stuff like that, right? When you just play the game in general?
Yeah, every night.
Yeah. If you practice efficiently in the sense of you're practicing good habits, you know what I mean? Stuff like this. Like even it sounds really weird, but like even going into a box and then expanding out purposely with the top right. Do you know what I mean? And at the beginning, this may feel really awkward to you, but you can tell, I mean, even how comfortable I am doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have no. Whereas at the beginning, sure, I definitely used to it. It used to feel really awkward. I'm like, I'm really looking up there. Do you know what I mean? Like that just seems really awkward, right? But once you get used to it, it becomes second nature. Like it's like to the point where even in the most niche circumstances, where somebody might panic edit something like this, or okay, I don't know about panic editing like that, but you know what I mean? Something like this, just something where it's like a weird reaction or something, because of how habitual it is to me. I'm just gonna do this because I find that the easiest no matter what. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's definitely what you want to work on developing, right?
Yep.
Um. Okay. Sorry, let me just look at the
There's a
time.
lot of mechanics just from all this. I mean, there's so many mechanics that I can just go practice
Oh, 100%.
to
Oh,
that I think will help me improve a ton.
yeah, no, no, for sure. Um, and this is again like this is just the principles. Do you know what I mean? Like this is just like the five principles that you want to work on developing that everybody, all pro players work on developing. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
so much other things that you can branch off, right? Like I said, the pre-firing, right? Some people don't have that play style at all, whereas for me, because it's hard to get walls for me, right? I like using and abusing pre-firing. You know what I mean? Because I'm much more, I guess, aware and looking at what the other person is doing rather than trying to focus on getting the wall. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I mean, there's people with other play styles as well. Um, some examples, I guess. I'm trying to think of some other things that are, I guess, a lot more like advanced, but that I guess it's just more individual in terms of play style stuff like that. Crouching as well is one thing. In terms of movement as well is obviously very important as well, like kind of how you're moving around your box and stuff like that. But even crouching, right? Even crouching before you shoot, right? Again, like that's another thing that is, it's not a principle, but you have a higher success rate. You know what I mean? Especially crouching is pretty fast in this game, right? So you can imagine that if I was like crouching and shooting, right, or I shoot and then crouch, how I could dodge shots. You know what I mean? Especially when people are looking for that head neck level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially doing this, I've developed a natural habit because I want to hide behind it, right, to crouch as I'm going down. You know what I mean? That may be kind of uncomfortable or not uncomfortable, but it might feel awkward with your binds, and that's fine. I guess I just happen to have good binds for it. You know what I mean? And this feels super natural to me. You know what I mean? Even just crouching in general, right? Like even if I'm doing something like this, or let's say it's more something like this, right? I'm still crouching. Like I'm still like looking for that shot and I'm still looking to dodge their shot too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
That's one thing I've been doing a lot lately that I need to quit doing is I've been trying to find better keybinds where I can move fast. And I finally got it set up now where I'm pretty comfortable with everything.
mhm.
But for a long time, I had some really bad keybinds.
Yeah, for sure. And that can definitely affect people. Do you want to like go over your keybinds a bit quickly or do you feel like they're in a
Yeah, I mean
comfortable
we can.
spot? No, no, if you feel like they're comfortable then that's 100%, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
Everybody has
there's still I still question some things. I guess probably in different situations I'm like, oh, I wish I had something different,
right.
there.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I can kind of tell you what I got, and
Okay.
I, um,
Or if you can screen share, actually, that'd be even better. So I can just look at
yeah,
your binds, kind of bottom right. You know what I mean?
yeah. How do we do that?
So on Discord, do you see the left of the leave call button? There's kind of like a window. It says turn on screen share.
Let's see here. I just started using Discord not too long ago. I'm trying to
Yeah, no, for
leave
sure.
call, turn on screen share. Yep.
And then there's a stream Fortnite,
Okay.
and then there we go.
Oh, perfect. All
All
right.
right.
So yeah. Uh,
Okay, extra reload. Uh-huh.
So, kind of, here's what I use I don't turn my keyboard at all, so
Okay.
it's really easy for me to use my pinky on caps lock for
Yeah.
my first weapon slot and F for my shotgun.
Okay.
I go AR, shotgun. Usually I'm sniper,
Yeah.
and then shield and uh, meds or whatever right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Stuff like that.
If I got a med and like grenades, or I would put my grenades in four, and my meds five's always my
Yeah.
go-to for
Like your priorities or like the prioritization of it. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. I always use fire for heals if I'm gonna carry a rockets or something. I'm always gonna have an AR, shotgun, and a sniper. Sniper is like my number one gun I always carry because
Yeah.
that's probably my best gun.
Okay, no, that's good for sure.
Crouch. I just slip my thumb over off my space bar to my left alt key.
Uh huh. That's good.
Um, okay, so this is gonna look weird to you because I have my mouse remapped
Okay.
from a previous. I've gone through a few different mice
Mm-hmm.
trying to find one that fits my hand good, but my wall would be. If you got two side buttons on your mouse, my wall would be my front one,
Yeah, and then your stairs are the back one.
and then nope, actually my stairs I have. It would be like an aim button on your mouse. It's below that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
I've got my stairs on that. Let me think. I've got my floor is actually on Q on my
Yeah.
keyboard,
Okay.
and my roof would be my back mouse button. Or no, my roof is R. I switched it. My roof is R.
Okay.
Trap C.
Mm-hmm. Place building stuff like that.
I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
have anything on. I just when I switched these the other day, I forgot to rebind rotate, but I don't even know really unless I don't think I have anything on my rear mic mouse button right now.
It's
Right there.
yeah, it's pretty niche, but it's definitely good to a point use. Like I said, like I use it for rotating a ramp when I'm punishing someone who's trying to sit behind a right angle with nothing in their box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's pretty specific. Like that's like super specific. So don't worry about it too much.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I use E for edit.
Mm-hmm. Do you use?
And,
Sorry, do you use edit on release?
yes.
Okay. Control ID left on.
Yeah. Ping T. Yeah, that's for the most part. That's
Okay, yeah, no, your binds seem good then. I wouldn't. There's nothing that I'd say that is like conflicting. You know what I mean? It's not like you're pressing like an absurd amount of things with your index finger or pointer finger. Nothing like that, right? So yeah, it seems good.
yeah. Yeah, I've got a couple of I got two builds on my mouse and two on my keyboard,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, my thumb obviously uses two, but on my keyboard I've got those so that I'm not using the same finger on, two of my builds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I have something similar set up. I find that it's generally people like to have a lot of things close to their pointer finger, and in the sense of like they're pressing a lot of builds with that, or maybe even they're using their thumb, stuff like that. Well, they have it spread out using multiple fingers, right?
Yeah, and I really struggle. I don't know how some people do it. Otherwise, I would probably use it, but I can't hit like Z and X
Mm-hmm.
very well.
What
Or
about?
even left shift is I can kind of do left shift because it's right off my pinky, but
Yeah. No, it is kind of an awkward one, and most people aren't very like strong with their pinky. What about F? Is F your use or pickup?
no, my F is my shotgun.
Okay, right,
Uh,
right, right.
my use is I just mouse wheel up for use.
Okay, that's good then as well. You can actually beat people off spawn because of that. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. So I'm trying to think. I would actually almost put more value on the repair slash upgrade over the rotate building bind. Um,
Okay.
because of
I've
the
never used the repair upgrade actually.
yeah, it's again like I said, it's kind of something more advanced, right? But the ability to play around people's builds and health, especially in terms of misdirection, right? Like you could see how if I was okay, imagine in game, right? Imagine all your game or sorry, all of your builds are healing, right? Imagine if I was shooting them all to 1 HP. That one I destroyed. But do you know what I mean, right? All of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well, what do I hold, right? Is it to a point 50-50? I mean, is it even that the person can... I messed up right there. Right? You can break 2 walls with 1 shot, and like I've done that to people. You know what I mean? Because
Holy cow.
it's like, oh, what do they do, right? Yeah, it's because shotgun does like spread, right? And if builds are really low, which again, that's why you kind of avoid that, as well as just generally healing. Do you know what I mean? Like especially if you're doing the above one where you're hitting the cone, right? Like from behind the wall or whatever, right? Hitting the walls, like if you want to kind of upgrade that to hit the walls at the same time here, right? You can kind of give yourself the ability to do that as well. And then that's where I look to utilize that because it's a lot more misdirection. Do you know what I mean? Like, because again, I have to get walls through that, right? Like I can't just walk up and take walls. Even from people with 30 ping, I generally never get it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely value your repair and just if somebody's pressuring your wall, just repair it right after. You know what I mean? It'll help even with the pressure. That's a very good habit to get into.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, so okay, yeah, no. Other than that, though, I'd say your binds are definitely good for sure. Do you
Good.
do you have any other questions or anything?
No, I just, I mean, I'm gonna work on that stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to, get back together with you later, and we can work on some others and check that stuff out, how that's come along, and then work on some more stuff.
Yeah, for sure. No, like I said, I
Very
mean,
knowledgeable.
oh yeah, sorry, thank you. I try to be very in depth and um again, like I used to not be very good at the game either. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying you're not good at the game. I just mean like, you know what I mean? I feel like I have unique insight because I've been playing the game for so long and I've just learned things. This is just things that I've learned over time playing. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And now I see everybody else do and I guess that's helped my box fighting a lot and I feel more confident with that. You know what I mean? Stuff like that cuz I used to be a baller in a World Cup to show you how bad my fighting used to be. Do you know what I mean? Like if I got in a fight, like I'd be like, all right, I'm balling out. Oh, he broke my ball. All right, I'm rifting out. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would be stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like I would launch pad out, right? And in just I guess like 2 seasons or even 1 season or whatever, right? Like I mean, obviously that's like 3 months or something, right? You can develop your fighting so much. Do you know what I mean? As long as you're working on the right things.
Yeah.
Um,
And like, what was I gonna say? I had a good one too. uh, it'll come to me later.
okay, yeah. Sorry. Do you wanna? It'll come back to you later. I just want to go over some things I usually go over at the end of the session.
Yeah.
So, do you have any other questions or anything?
Um, Questions? No. I just got a lot that I'm thinking about as far as like stuff I'm gonna practice.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And
And
I,
I mean, the mechanics help a ton.
mhm. And I also, like I said, I recorded the VOD, and the reason that I was doing summaries like that in terms of like the 5 things is so that they're kind of easier to recall. You know what I mean? Even if you want to write them down and have them on a second monitor that you can look at or something like that. You know what I mean? It'll help you a lot because it reminds you to think about it. You know what I mean? That's the best way to learn something is to think about it while doing it, right?
Yep.
Um okay, so I'll upload the video. I'll probably send you the link tomorrow. My upload isn't the best, honestly. It'll probably take some time. Um, I feel like we covered everything. Do you feel like you have a good idea of things you need to work on?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
All I was
And
gonna, all I was gonna say when I was trying to think of was
uh-huh.
I was gonna tell you that it's only probably 4, 5 months ago at the most that I switched to PC. So
Yeah.
I'm new to PC too. So that's kind of something that I've been trying not to develop bad habits. So
Yeah, no
it's
no.
nice to kind of get the basic mechanics of a lot of this stuff. And
Yeah, no, for sure that's good. And honestly, I wouldn't even have known. Do you know what I mean? Like when I like there's some players I've coached in the past who have switched over to PC, right? And we're talking even longer, like year and a half, something like that, right? And they're still struggling with a lot of things. So that's good that you're making a lot of improvement. And I haven't necessarily noticed any initial bad habits in terms of your PC, right? Like in terms of your binds, they're pretty optimized. You aren't trying to do 8 things with one finger, stuff like that. You know what I mean? You're utilizing your mouse and your keyboard, which is good. It's preference, but that's still good in my opinion. Kind of helps you in my like I would say multitask a lot, just in general, kind of thing. Um,
yeah,
yeah, no, that's definitely good. I haven't noticed anything like that. Like I said, if you told me that, like I didn't even think that honestly. I thought that you just played
no,
PC the entire time. Yeah, 100%.
oh yeah, no. I just put so much time
Mm-hmm.
in creative and stuff like that that I've gotten a lot better than I would have had I just been playing matches.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that you'll begin to actually notice, especially if you work on implementing some of the things we talked about, is you'll begin to see other people lack those. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
like you'll look to punish them instantly. Do you know what I mean? Because when you think about it yourself and you think about like what you're seeing and what you're doing, as soon as you see somebody else doing something, like have you ever seen somebody do something that you maybe learned to not do? Like, it's not a very good example, but do you know what I mean? Like, let's say you learn to do something, and then you see somebody do something that you learned not to do, and you're like, ha ha ha, right? Or do
yeah,
you know what I mean? Something like that. Like, that wasn't a very good example, but you know what I mean. You notice it very evidently, right? It's very obvious to you, right?
yeah.
Especially if you
Like
used to get.
like I'm gonna probably eventually say, I start getting this stuff down, I'm gonna be able to, I'm gonna come upon somebody and I'm gonna right peek them, and they're not gonna know what to do.
And disabuse them. Oh, 100%. Like even when I box fight, like I always practice box fighting even every day. I just go into West 2.0, which is the West Discord, and I just box fight random kids because that's one of the best practice. You know what I mean? Now you want to box fight everybody, and I'm not gonna lie, like some of the things when they lack a lot of the basic principles, like 10-0, it goes 10-0. I barely use heals. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I'm not trying to say that as like a flex or anything. I just mean like that will generally how it'll be because box fighting is so punishing, and I'm sure that you know that now more than ever, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. So yeah, I mean,
I,
I
I guess. Yeah, that's the last. That's one question I should ask you probably is
uh-huh.
what you said the West is a good one. I mean, is there
Once
that's a
East.
good server to play on as far as like 1v1 people in box fights if I want to practice?
Oh no. If you're East, there's a East Discord as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Here, sorry, let me find it. So there's like a bunch. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like a ranked box fight 1v1 Discord where it's like you literally get ranking for the box fight. I mean, it's an arbitrary number in Discord, but hey, maybe that motivates you to play more or something like that, right? Generally speaking, I don't necessarily think too much about that, so I just kind of just go into the Scrim Discord. Maybe the fights aren't as good, maybe they aren't as realistic, right? People don't value their life as much, but at least I'm getting practice playing against people like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm just trying to find the link.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't even really. I mean, I I joined a couple different ones like
Hmm.
Atlantis and Mayhem and stuff, but I've never tried to 1v1 anybody because I'm like, well, I'm probably just gonna get wrecked if I,
Yeah. No,
I know who
and
I'm going up against. So
yeah, for sure, and I can definitely see that. A lot of the players are, I mean, especially if they're interested in scrims enough, and obviously some of them, do you know what I mean? They're like me, who are looking to just keep box fighting, right? Keep kind of growing their experience, stuff like that. You will fight good players, but that's good too. Do you know what I mean? As long as
yeah,
you can learn from your mistakes and stuff like that, you'll improve very quickly. So here's the link to the Discord.
okay,
I'll be able to send you the YouTube link later, so if you want to watch this back or something, you can do that as well. Maybe write
yeah,
some of your own notes about it, stuff like that. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me or something.
I definitely will. I appreciate that, and I will get another session with you here
Yeah, for
later
sure. I
on
mean,
after I practice some of this stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I don't want you to feel pressured. Like you have to, like, hey, you know what I mean? If you want to get a session with somebody else, don't even worry about it. Like, don't think
no,
twice
I
about it.
mean,
You know what I mean?
yeah, no, I've tried sessions with two different coaches, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've learned stuff from those guys as well. But I feel like you, I don't know,
I
just
focus on explaining a lot more
you just
principles and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
for sure.
I feel like you're
It
definitely more my style.
and it's Fortnite. It's a battle royale. Like you can't even. Do you know what I mean? That's why I don't go over a bunch of examples. I teach you principles because every situation is different. Even now, I've experienced thousands of fights. Do you know what I mean? And every single one is different each time, right?
Yeah,
So I really like actually get annoyed at that style of coaching. Not necessarily saying that the other coaches are bad or whatever they're doing, but I
yeah,
don't like the situational kind of overanalyze one situation as if somebody learns something from that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like if you taught somebody the basics of math, you wouldn't go over this really specific equation over and over again. You'd go over the laws. You know what I mean?
yeah. And I mean, just one huge thing that just to take away from this, is like I just need like one thing I need to focus on is like, okay, I'm going to fight somebody. What's on the other side of that wall?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a ramp on the other side of the wall. Well, now I know what edit I need to do on my wall to get that angle.
Yeah, for sure. And again, even if you're identifying things like that, there's no reason you wouldn't identify it in your own box. You know what I mean? Or if you're
Yeah,
identifying things in your own box, you identify things that other people do too. You know what I mean? It's a two-way kind of street.
yeah, definitely.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'm gonna head out for the night. I'll send you the link, maybe later, late tonight or tomorrow, probably. Right? I don't necessarily know when you're gonna go to bed or whatever. And if you have any questions, just feel free to DM me.
Awesome. I will do that. I appreciate it, man.
All right, for sure. Have a good night.
All right. Yeah, you too. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.